Rogue One was everything that I expected from a Star Wars anthology film and much, much more. Well, maybe except for one small thing, which I'll discuss in a separate spoilers video. But welcome to my spoilers free review of Star Wars, Rogue One, Star Wars Story, or whatever it's called. And I gotta say, right away, I'll answer your question. Should you see the film? Yes, yes, yes! Star Wars is back in an awesomely good way. This is probably about as good of a side story anthology film that you could hope to start with. If Star Wars, if all these side films, and if we're gonna get a Star Wars film once every year and they're this good, then I'm on board. And I didn't expect such a wide array of impressive, epic, fleet scale battles with the classic retro ships. I had no idea that was coming. This has more epic space battles than Force Awakens. Nothing in Force Awakens compares to the third act in this movie. In fact, the prequel space battles can't come close. It is perhaps the best space battle since the original trilogy. Maybe Jedi, Return of the Jedi space battles is probably on par with this, and maybe this is even a little bit better than that. So if you're like me and you love freaking, space battles with the classic ships and fleet engagements and X-wings and TIE fighters and capital ships going at it, you're gonna want to go to this movie for the third act alone because it is insane. It is really the centerpiece of this film. This is a war film set in the Star Wars universe. That's exactly what I was expecting, and it's exactly what I got, and it works. I was a little concerned because it does have a rough, jumbly start. You're jumping between different planet locations, which I felt was maybe a little unnecessary. If they would have consolidated some of the locations and let us spend a little bit more time with an individual character, that would have been a little bit better for me. They did spend some time with Jyn Orslow, who is the daughter of the creator of the Death Star, and basically the story is about Rogue One, this team that quickly comes together, the ragtag team, to basically capture the plans for the original Death Star to allow the Rebel Alliance to destroy it. And in a sort of fan fictiony gratification way, they tie up the loose end that really you're gonna destroy a whole Death Star. They spent so much time and money and effort to build this thing, and you can blow it up with two little torpedoes down the tube. They explain that in the sense that the guy that designed the Death Star, Jin's father, purposefully put in some design flaws because he was, basically the start of the rebellion and hated the idea of working on this. And he knew they were going to work on it anyway without him. So he decided to do that. So that's basically the story. The Death Star gets built, and this team has to, against all odds, against a full power empire, somehow try to steal these plans so that the rebels have a hope because they have no hope with a fully functional battle station like that. So as I said in the beginning, it starts a little rough, and also the music starts a little rough. It took me out of the experience. I expected a little bit more classic throwbacks to John Williams' score. This tries to do its own thing. The composer here tries to do his own thing, and I think the early tracks really kind of disappointed me, and I felt like this was either a really great fan film or it just didn't feel Star Wars enough. But that dissipates, and so does the rough story at the beginning. It gains traction real hard in that second act, and the third act, by then it's firing on all cylinders, and you're gonna love it. It really finds its groove once the fighting starts, and there is non-stop fighting. This is probably the most action-packed Star Wars ever. And it's surprising given the fact that there's, no Jedi, no mystical stuff, a little bit of mystical stuff actually, with Donnie Yen's character, who sort of leads a church or a protector of a temple that was on one of the planets that we visit. But because it's a story about the soldiers of the Resistance and even the soldiers of the Empire and the inner workings of the Empire and power plays between there, we obviously get a lot more gunplay and battles and fights, and it's really, really cool. However, I do think it falls short of being like a legendary film. I think it even falls short a little bit of The Force Awakens. It's superior than The Force Awakens in certain elements, but what happens is I think the film sort of lacks a little bit of charm that we saw in Force Awakens, the original trilogy. And one of the where that comes from is the weak characterization, some of the weak characters in this film. Though there are a few notable ones, like the reprogrammed droid K2SO, or Donnie Yen's character is also really, really good, though his dialogue a little weaker than I would have hoped. Forrest Whitaker's character, I thought he was going to play maybe perhaps a bigger role. He doesn't really, and he seems to be just chewing scenery, just like going over a dramatic. It's difficult to buy his performance. I don't know what was going on there. A little ridiculous. We do get the most time with Jyn Orso, and I think she's a pretty cool character. One of the surprising things for me is how complex and how dark the film gets. They show the Rebel Alliance's dirty work. They show the Rebel Alliance dark side, secrets, and things that they're not proud of. And I didn't expect them to do that. Some soldiers having to do some kind of messed up things in the name of the Rebel Alliance to try to defeat the Empire. So you've got good characters, or that may do morally wrong things at times. I basically, I'm happy to see that you don't see Disney. You don't see them meddling around in the film. It's basically the director's vision is full on display here. Without going into spoilers, they basically do what I was hoping that they would do, and I'm a little shocked that they had the balls to do it and got away with it. And it makes for a stronger ending to the film. This film actually has a complete story from beginning to end. It's amazing that it works as a standalone film, and it is its own thing, but yes, pays enough homage to the previous films that it feels Star Wars and it feels right, except for maybe the first 20 minutes. Um, and that's a feat because it's a first complete story. It's not a part of a story. This is a complete story from beginning to end, and I really really like that. In terms of sheer epic scale, it beats Force Awakens. You barely felt the Rebel Alliance or the Resistance in the Force Awakens. I mean, they were all kind of off to the side. Here, it makes you believe in this world more because the Rebels fleet does show up, and you can see that it has a certain amount of strength, that it can throw punches with the Empire in a limited capacity. And so you believe the war between the Empire and the Rebels, and how desperate and important it was for the Emperor and Vader in the original trilogy to find the location of the Rebel base and finally finish these guys off. So I think it really enriches the Star Wars universe. And as far as the plot, I think the plot was great. It put characters in good, interesting, climactic situations. The villains, oh my God, we've got to talk about Darth Vader. And the end is worth the price of admission. They make Darth Vader scary again. I don't want to spoil anything. We'll talk about it in the spoilers, but as if it was the icing on the cake of that final third act where everything is just awesome. Awesome. So if you like war films, if you like sort of grand capers, bank heists, so to speak, if you like sci-fi, and if you're a big Star Wars fan, there is absolutely no reason you should not go out and get see this film. I know I'm gonna buy it on Blu-ray. I'm gonna wait for the Blu-ray that has the commentary. We had to wait till November, till Force Awakens came out with J.J. Abrams commentary, but it was worth it, by the way. I recommend that one as well. But a great start for Disney's new yearly Star Wars. Now, I am less enthusiastic about these spin-off Han Solo films that have been confirmed. While I do like their casting for young Lando, I just don't think I want to see a young Han. I just think Harrison Ford is Han Solo. and I probably and we've seen enough of Han. I probably would have enjoyed. That's why we haven't seen enough of Lando, and that's why I'm excited about young Lando. But I think I would have preferred perhaps a spin-off Boba Fett film first, or a spin-off young Obi-Wan film, or a even Ewan McGregor film. But I'll tell you what, this one was really good. And so my final verdict for Star Wars, well, basically it's Rogue One, a Star Wars story. Final verdict for the film is going to be an 8 out of 10. I think that if the characters had a little bit more time to develop and there was a little bit more emotion out of there and more memorable ones, besides, 2 or 3, then it would have definitely been like a 9, perhaps even a 10 with that third act. Like if I was just judging it off the third act, it's a 10 out of 10 on that third act. It's that first act that has some problems, and I expected a little bit more emotion and characterization from some of these guys, and it's kind of a difficult problem because and you'll understand that by the end, and we can talk about that in the spoilers. So I'll bring the boys over in the Angry Army, and we'll have a very lengthy spoilers discussion because this one deserves it, and I hope you guys have already seen it or are buying your tickets now to go see it because it deserves it. Okay, guys, we'll see you on the next Angry Joe show. Bye bye. Ah! I'll take Vader. I would have took Vader. Don't worry, I'll handle Vader. At the end of the film, they could call on Angry Joe, and I can handle Vader. Yeah. See you on the next one.